We are very lucky to have a guest presenter with us today from Florida. I'll let her introduce herself in just a moment. We'll be going through our roll call, and I think everyone who registered is with us right now. So, Beth, if it's all right with you, I'm going to get started.
Okay.
And I'm going to
My name is Gloria Jimenez. I am teacher in Arzobispo Border School in Baltimore. I am teaching Spanish and social studies in Spanish too.
Thank you, Ms. Jimenez.
Because our school is bilingual.
Thank you. That's a very key detail. I'm going to go through the agenda really quick, and then we'll get back to hearing more about Archbishop Borders.
Okay.
So we're going to open with a prayer. Today happens to be the feast day of Mother Cabrini, so we'll be talking about her role in all of our schools. And we'll do a roll call, and we already got Gloria, which is great. Then we're going to hear from our friends down in Orlando. We'll have time, hopefully, for Q&A, and then we have some housekeeping. And in the chat box, right here, so you should receive a message there. That is the link I'll need you to complete if you've got the time to give some feedback. We'd welcome your thoughts after we're all done. So with no more further ado, keeping an eye on the time, would you join me in giving some thoughts to Mother Cabrini, and then we'll do a roll call. So like I was saying, today happens to be the feast day of Mother Cabrini. Growing up, she was a saint that I heard a lot about and I always admired. And it just so happened that today happens to be our feast day. I thought, well, let's talk about her. So I'm going to turn off my video here for just a second, and I'm going to read this prayer card. It comes to us, there's several like this actually, but I can send you the link for this particular one if you like it. And she's someone who can influence a lot of our work. So will you join me in the name of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit?
Amen.
Amen. A prayer for the feast of St. Francis Xavier Cabrini, Mother Cabrini. Loving God, St. Francis Xavier Cabrini crossed oceans and borders to share your love with many nations. By her example, teach us concern for the stranger. By her prayers, help us to find Christ in our migrant sisters and brothers, and all who welcome them. By your guidance and Mother Cabrini's inspiration, may we love boldly and work tirelessly to correct the injustice of our nation's broken immigration system. We pray for just and compassionate immigration laws that recognize the dignity of all people and the sanctity of the family. May our nation and our hearts be places of welcome. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of
Amen.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Let me join you. Thank you. So we heard from our friend Gloria, and Gloria was telling us about our Archbishop Borders, and I think your colleague Carmen is here as well.
Yes, hi, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you, Carmen.
Good. Yeah, I'm here from Archbishop Borders too.
Excellent. Thank you. And Manuel is also here from Baltimore. Manuel, would you like to say hello?
Hola, buenas tardes a todos. Bienvenidos al webinar. Excelente de verles nuevamente.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I see that Dr. Zisselsberger is here as well. Hello. Thank you for joining us. And is Ms. Reyes from Baltimore signing on? I don't know if I see her. That's okay. Thank you. Let's see, I'm going through my list here. Remember, do register. Ms. Ragone is here from Flushing. Ms. Ragone, would you like to say hello?
Hi. I hope you have better weather than we do in New York.
No.
No warmer.
But thanks for the well wishes. Very good. Thank you. You just got the Amazon headquarters, my friend. I don't know if that's a blessing or a curse.
Long Island City.
I am glad it's down by you. So good luck with that. And let's see. We have Miss Carney from Des Moines.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Miss Carney. She is a mentor for St. Anthony Des Moines. We have Chris Nelson in Omaha. Hello, Ms. Nelson. We have someone on the phone.
Hi, this is
Hi,
Gloria.
Mary. This is
We have two phones. I'm sorry, the 305.
yes, Mary. This is Monica Garcia from St. Agnes Academy. How are you?
I am well, thank you. Hello, Monica. All right, very good. And then I think I heard Gloria.
Gloria from California.
Hello, Gloria. Are you doing okay with the fires, Gloria?
Yes, I'm fortunate enough to be inland that I haven't been affected. Thank
Good.
goodness.
Let's see that way. We're glad for that. So we have Megan and Andrew also in Omaha. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Yes. And then we have, who else? Yvette in San Antonio. Hi, Yvette. And is there anyone I haven't called on or anyone I haven't mentioned? Okay. And then we have all our friends in Orlando. Beth, do you want to introduce your colleagues?
So
I'm not sure if
they
everybody
can't
can
see.
but
They cannot, but if
Hold
you
on
click
one
that,
second,
then they can
please,
see
Beth.
it.
Friend, I'm going to mute you if
This is me, I do that.
presenting because it's
Okay. Click that.
one second. Okay. And we have Elena. Okay, so Beth, go ahead and introduce your colleagues, please.
Okay, I have the dream team here with me. I have the pre-K4 and the kindergarten teachers. So pre-K4, I have Celeste and Marlon. And for kindergarten, we have Sarah and Vanessa. And then our leader is with us today. Miss Marshall is here with us as well.
Welcome. I'm trying to capture everyone's names. Be sure to email me if you haven't registered so we can give you your hours. We want to make sure that we give everyone credit where credit is due, but that is a dream team. And our friends in Baltimore might know Miss Marshall from her time.
Yes, hello, Baltimore.
Hi, Miss Marshall.
If you have multiple devices in the same room, I'd ask that you turn off your
We can do it together in the same room.
Okay, so I'm going to turn this over to our colleagues in Orlando. Again, if you are not presenting, please mute and turn off your sound. Thank you. Okay, I think we got it now. Thanks, folks. Okay, and we have one chat message. And registering an hour ago is perfect, Yvette. You do whatever you Thank you so much. So, St. John Vianney, I'm going to be your Vanna. I will change the slides when you need me to, so you go right ahead, and I turn it over to Beth.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. We're going to go ahead and just introduce St. John Vianney to you. Basically, we have changed and moved from a traditional Catholic education to a dual language program with a stream approach to education. So we're working with science, technology, engineering, religion, engineering, arts, and mathematics. So we've been trying to integrate all of our curriculum and do it with a dual language approach. So we are really enjoying our program here, and it's been a learning experience for everyone. I think you can go ahead and switch. Look at how my face froze on the screen. So I thought it would be important to introduce to you what our mission is, and our mission is there to the left of the screen. But Mary, you said you could play our short video. Do you think you could get that rolling for us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, I think that really speaks for us.
Can you see the video, Beth? Are you able to see the video?
I see Miss Marshall on the video.
All right, we're gonna, now can you, hold on one second, folks. We're gonna fix this. Let's try this again. Can you see what I see? Nope.
Yeah.
You can see the video?
I can't on my phone.
Can you see the video, Beth?
Yes, I can on my phone, but not on the computer screen.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're going to try this one more time. I think that should work.
St. John Vianney School, to me, is extremely unique in that it's all about community. And it's all about really helping children to understand what community and relationships are about. with the whole environment permeated with Christ. And it sets us apart. We're a welcoming place of community of cultures. That's our strength is within our cultures. Our strength is in our language diversity. Our strength is in outreach, and I really emphasize outreach and that we welcome in, but we also open our doors to go out. We have the academic excellence. We're very strong in our tradition of our academic excellence. But the key piece with the ministry at St. John Vianney is that it's an outreach. Prayer is very key. Fortunately, here we have a very strong parish relationship with our pastor and our priest. They are visible, so they have a ministry of being very present to the children, and that speaks a lot for them.
The important thing is to be able to strengthen their Catholic identity, recognizing who they are as children of God, disciples of Jesus, and how that discipleship takes effect in their lives, not only through opportunities of strengthening their faith, through faith formation classes, but also in service, in the manner in which they reach out to the community, exercising acts of kindness and charity. I think that the diversity of the school is not only at the school level, but also in the classroom. It's just great to see that the kids are exposed to different parts of the world that maybe at home we wouldn't speak about, and the stories they bring home from what their friends share with them, whether it's where they went on vacation or where their parents are from or what they had for lunch. So it's nice because it starts out conversations at the house that you probably otherwise wouldn't have.
The dual language program really is guided to immerse the students in the language, whether it be the English language or the Spanish language. We utilize native Spanish-speaking teachers so that students are not tempted to wait for translation. It increases their ability to communicate within their oral fluency within the language.
I think St. John Vianney's got a great reputation for academics. I think one of the things that we really appreciate is they do challenge the students. It's one of those things where they want to make sure that they're doing their very best. That's something that's really important to us when it comes to academics.
It's a very strong curriculum. The students, when they come back to us, they say they're prepared. And they feel very prepared and they feel very confident going into their high schools of choice. St. John Vianney's been very powerful in Give Kids the World. I think that is one of their most outstanding works of mercy. They love it. They actually love it.
Give Kids the World, like we bring their trays to them, or we give them drinks, we serve food to them, and we just talk to them. That's my favorite.
That sense of community and involvement, everybody is very geared for, which is one of the most important things, I think, as a child, not only as you academic, but also learning to serve others.
I think the reason you should send your son or daughter to St. John Vianney School is because our prayer that the students say every morning, we are a communion of cultures united in the love of Christ.
It's like family. That's, again, the number one choice for me choosing the school, is that I know that when I go to work, and I do travel quite a bit, I know that my daughter is safe.
Maybe that's what they saw. That's probably what they saw. To see how it's like laggy.
All right, we're going to go back to our PowerPoint now, but that was a great video. And I'm sure we're going to have some questions about how you made the video. But go ahead, Beth, please continue. I can change the slide.
So the reason I thought it was important for us to just take a look at who we are, it really defines our process in this dual language approach to learning. We have experts in their field that send their children here, from judges, lawyers, doctors, to Orlando being a #1 place for service employment jobs as well, working in the retail and in the service industry, of course, with Mickey Mouse and our Universal partners here in Orlando. So it's important for us to be able to speak to a high quality, well-educated client. And so in doing so, in 2016, you can see our journey of faith of this dual language. We introduced the idea and announced to our population that we are going to be moving into the dual language program. So of course that came with lots of questions. And so it was a year of discernment and trying to educate who we were going to be and where we were going. In 2017, for me, it felt like we jumped into the deep end because it was my first year joining St. John Vianney, and our pre-K4s teachers, which Marlon is here with me today. So if you have any questions on that, we can get to that during the question time, but they helped with our transition. Along with being the pre-K4s, we had our hands tied a smidge because we do the VPK as well. And so with VPK comes with required standards that we have to make sure that we accommodate. 2018, that's where we are today, year 2 of the actual transition in the classroom, and we have our kindergarten teachers. To prepare our kindergarten teachers, we sent a team up to the Twin workshop, and they came back, I think, pretty well fired up about where they were going, felt pretty good about their journey and where they were headed. Of course, we've hit some new bumps and strides along the way, but one of the important things that they impressed upon us was the actual need for vertical planning. We had done some of this from 2017 to 2018, but this was one of the big things that they felt would be important for our success for 2019. And that is to continue that teacher training and visit the Summer Workshop Academy again. So that's on our plan, and to continue with the vertical planning. So now our first grade teachers meet on a regular basis with our dual language student teachers. So well, they're not student teachers, but teachers of students who are in our dual language program. So that's where we are with that particular piece. And that's kind of like our journey of faith. I call it the Miss Marshall faith. Okay. So one of the most important things to us is collaboration. And we're very proud and are able to speak to a lot of the concerns because we have these 2 great partnerships. Obviously, Mary Burns with us today. She's a strong partner for us with the summer workshops and any questions in these webinars. And then Suzanne Pena, who is from UCF. The University of Central Florida has partnered with us, and Suzanne, at times, I kind of feel like she's on staff here. We see her quite a bit. She's committed and makes a regular appointment with our teachers. They hammered her down to make sure that she was here on a regular basis.
By the way, I'm calling. I got in all the way from Santa Fe, New Mexico, so I'm here. I made it. I made it.
Yay!
Time difference, but I'm here. I'm here.
Okay, great. So we're real proud of Suzanne and her commitment. As a matter of fact, even last year, she's heard about the workshop in Boston and said she's going. So some of you may have had a chance to meet her last year. So she has been quite an assistant for us. We use her knowledge and her expertise. Miss Marshall and I use her expertise as she's an administrator who's been through this already. And she's able to help the teachers because most of her teachers have had most of the same concerns that we have, and she's an incredible resource for us. So collaboration is really, really important for us. So that sets us into where we are with our classroom. And so, thank you. That lets us know how we align ourselves with the diocese. We're the only school in the diocese that offers the dual language, and keeping that in mind, we're expected to keep that level of excellence. Our parents expect it, our diocese is expecting it, and so we're working towards that. Our goals are to use these skill proficiency scales, as you can see here in front. I thought it would be important because I have a report card for you to see. So our proficiency scales are, as you can see it, and I think we can move to the next slide. So what does that look like? What does the P and the DP look like? And I think it's important to keep in mind that the teachers are paying close attention to each trimester that they're actually marking their students. They look for proficiency with that particular skill and standard. They make sure that at each trimester, the ones that they've covered. So it has been in our pre-K4s, a child may look like they are developing proficiency, But then all of a sudden in semester 2, they may have slowed down a little bit and they're not showing that same growth that they were before. So they may end up with an EP at that time. So it's each trimester that is really important to us that we look at the children each time for their assessment. Okay. It's nice having So one of the things I sat when Miss Marshall asked me to work together with the team and present what it is, what we do, and how we are where we are today, I looked at it in a monthly perspective. Going across the top of the screen, you can see our partners that we primarily spent with each month. And it didn't mean we spent the whole entire month there, and it didn't mean those were the only ones, but they were the ones that we felt were the most often referred to. So in June, we sent the teachers and the mentors to kind of discuss the curriculum standards. And again, Suzanne popped in and was there for us and worked towards helping our kindergarten teachers set their standards and make sure that they weren't going to miss anything. They were very conscientious and wanted to do that. In July, Miss Marshall came back from the presentation and said, okay, we have to work with the diocese now. We are moving to a new grading program, so we needed to work closely with them in developing the report card that you'll see here in a little bit. In August, we kicked off school, the kids started coming in, and that's when we really leaned with Suzanne as well. And back in the building she came, and mentors, teachers, administrators working towards, just looking at all the different report cards we could get our hands on to see the standards and the skills, making sure we hit the requirements that we wanted to. And then once we kind of decided on some of the things we wanted, we went to our diocese again. And we shared with our findings what we wanted. And so then it became a tech problem. And the tech, they have report cards for the whole diocese. Everybody has the same one, except we're a special case. So we had to keep pushing in, and that persevering was really important for us to stay focused with the diocese and let them understand the importance for us to have a solid report card in the front end of this. And our teachers, we would like to say we had it August 1st, but it probably wasn't until mid-October where we actually settled on what does that grading report look like and how does it feel and how will we use it. So back to the school again and working with the administration and the software needs, we just started to just work the plan. And it wasn't until maybe October we started realizing that, we have some problems. So we kept trying to clean up all of our tech issues. And then now we're in November and we've just sent out our report cards. So the parents have received the report cards, and I haven't had any emails regarding what's going on with the report cards. I think everybody seems to understand it, but sometimes when you don't hear things, there may be a mumble that you're just not listening to. So we'll do some, our goal when we get back after Thanksgiving is to do some reaching out to the parents to make sure that they understand what it is that they have in front of them. Okay, thank you. So this is an example of the pre-K4 language and literacy. Again, due to our VPK standards, we've decided to go with the English standards and use translator in our grading program to communicate, because we really can't make too many changes in that particular piece yet. The state will eventually come around. I'm sure Suzanne will have something to do with that. But I'm sure as soon as they catch up and realize the value of dual language, we'll start to see that change in our VPK. But for right now, this is just a small snapshot of what the report card currently looks like for the ELA for the pre-K4. So this is where it starts getting a little juicy. The kindergarten report card for the ELA and the SLA, I just took a quick snapshot there for you. They're really small, and I did get a PDF, and so there will be a PDF available for you to look at one of our whole report cards and take a closer look at that. Mary said she would share that with you. But you can see that the teachers have reporting in both the English language arts and the Spanish language arts. And as they're doing that, you can see the standards that are not marked, that are blank, are ones that haven't been covered at this point. The ones that have a marking in there are the ones that they've covered during the first semester. So even though it's written in English, we do have a translator as when the parents receive their report card, so they can translate to any language. You know, Orlando is quite diverse. We have many languages here. I think, was it kindergarten last year, I think had 2 or 3 different, maybe 4 languages going on in one classroom. So the parents will get an opportunity to select the language that they would like to see their information in, which is why working with our software was so important and a little labor intensive on that.
Okay, we have received excellent information in a very succinct way from Beth and her team. I am sure there are questions. So you have the opportunity to ask a question. I'm going to try to facilitate as best I can, but please jump in, or there's a little feature to raise your hand if you'd like to, but we'll try to capture every question that we can. The information that Beth has shared is on the shared Google Drive. If anyone would like to make sure they have access to this, just drop me an email, but you should have access to it. And other people shared their report cards. So there's some very different examples up there, so you can get lots of good ideas. We got some from St. Michael's and Flushing, from several different schools. So please let us know if you have any questions about that, but please share your questions with Orlando. You did a great job, Beth. One question that I have to get us started, we've got quite a bit of time for questions. With the report cards, what is, as you grow and there's more content covered, like how are you seeing this, say, by the time this cohort of children reaches 4th or 5th grade? It could be really long. So what are some ways that you're going to be thinking about making that efficient?
And you're asking us, is that correct, in Orlando?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. I think one of the things that plays out was that was a question that I kind of acquired while I was going through this process, you know, trying to get prepared for this. And I feel like it's very important that we take a close look at the different standards. We can't deviate away from the standards. So we have to take a closer look at, so for example, in our mathematics standards are pretty similar in both, whether you're looking at the ones that are in Spanish language arts and the ones that are in English language arts, mathematics, I guess, that are in English or Spanish. We're toying with the idea of having it in dual language. Team, anybody else have any other suggestions? We're not sure about moving it to all Spanish, because we do have a Creole group of families here, and they know they're here for the dual language for Spanish and English, but for them to actually read the card, it has to be translated for them. So I think I answered your question, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, you did, partly because, and I'd love to hear what your colleagues have to say too. I'm thinking as the children get more and more content and there's more to cover, potentially it could get really long, and that could be overwhelming for a parent. But then you want to be thorough and honor the home language too. So.
Each grade has their own. Okay, Sarah Kim had a really great answer. So do you want to say that? Okay. She doesn't want to talk, so I'll speak for her.
Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. From K to 2nd grade, we have basic standards-based reporting. And then from 3rd grade to 5th grade in Florida, we do standards-based as well. It's when you get into the middle grades and the upper grades where those courses start to come into play. So everything is based on its standards all the way through K to 5.
Okay. That is what, because, so now this is an interesting aspect to this, that in some of the twin schools, you are beholden to what the state requires that you do. In some of the twin schools, you have a lot of freedom, a lot of agency to make that report card however you want to, because there isn't something that dictates how a report card should look. So there's so much variability within our own professional network. It's going to be really interesting to see all the different types of report cards. And so, yes, Sarah, you did address what I was thinking, that I wasn't sure how that would work. And so if it's by these standards for elementary school, that makes sense. That is manageable. But
So we added a section for Spanish language arts.
But that will be a world language every time.
Very good. Well, thank you for addressing my question, guys. Other thoughts or questions from our group here?
I know that's, sorry, I don't know how to raise the hand. I was trying to figure out how to raise the hand.
That's fine. You're great. Go right ahead.
Weird. That's something actually when I started working here at St. Matthew, something that I wanted us to grab on, because something that I do notice is that at a young age, when you give like the A, B, C, D, or F, like if a student's a D or an F, it's like setting them like at a very young age, oh, I'm dumb. Oh, I'm an F student. Oh, I'm stuck there. Oh, well, I'm not gonna try. So that is something that I had always looked into, and I like that I like how you guys did it over in Florida, and I think that's something that I'm going to figure out here how we can do it, because I have noticed that when they're at a young age, when you start off with grades like that, it's not, I personally don't think I like it, because I noticed that a lot of students are like, well, I'm an F student, it's fine, I don't know Spanish, it's okay, type of thing. So, but a good question is when they get in the older grades, there is a lot of standards, like it's gonna get longer. So I'm interested to see when you guys do grow and you guys expand, how you guys are going to manage that.
I think you raise a good point of it. It has to be developmentally appropriate.
Yeah.
And aware of the socio-emotional learning that's taking place. There's so much growth, say, between first grade and third grade. They've grown a lot emotionally, hopefully, anyway, and so they can handle a bit more. We looks like we may have a chat question here. Yes, okay, Gloria, I'm going to say it for you. Others should be able to see it as well. There are also Spanish language standards and CCSS linguistic adaptations in California. Carmen says, do you have a report card in English and Spanish for the parents, or do you give it to them in only one language? So thank you, Gloria, for mentioning the standards that are taking place in California, to think about the state context, that varies from place to place in our network. I think it's important to consider that we are talking specifically about Florida. For our Florida friends, I taught in Escambia County for a while. It's just its own deal in Florida. So now Carmen was asking about what you give to parents. So we look forward to your answer, guys.
Well, the report card is in Spanish. I mean, is in English, the written portion, but they do have Spanish standard. But it's written in English.
But RenWeb lets you translate.
Do you want to turn it just slightly?
Oh.
Okay, so we're going to say it again louder.
Thank you.
So when we are inputting it into the system, we are inputting it in English, but the parents have the ability to translate it to whatever language that they speak. So it's accessible. But we do have a specific section for Spanish language arts standards and then English language arts standards.
Okay, so this wasn't
translated.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think this is what you said, Beth, but I don't think I quite followed it. So thank you all for saying this. So what you're saying is on RenWeb, the teacher puts in the information. The parent can choose how it is displayed on their computer. Language they would like it in. So you've got a large Brazilian population in Orlando, so they can have it in Brazilian Portuguese.
Right.
Right.
Okay. My brother-in-law's got relatives down there, so I know there is this growing Portuguese-speaking community, and so that would be more preferable for them. Okay, so that way, that facilitates communication, I imagine, with the parents. It's a bit more comfortable, perhaps, for everybody. You don't have to have it, there's a delay in trying to get everything translated by hand. It's all done kind of automatically.
Right.
Okay, very good. We've got another chat question from Manuel. Immersion programs use and follow the foreign standards language learning. Manuel, do you want to add more to that?
Yeah, usually the.
I'm sorry, if you could speak a little louder. It's very hard to hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Better.
Okay, usually the immersion programs that use another language, that is English, use the standards for foreign language learning from the ACTAFEL, and it's something that is has been implemented since around 10 years ago, and that is mostly the standards that we add beside the state standards, because we need to, because we have English curriculum, so you have to follow the standard from the state too, but you need the standards for foreign language. So it's important to combine that standard.
Right, and thank you for adding to that. Do you want to speak to that, Beth? I know that St. Matthew's has incorporated that into the documents that Christina shared, that they were based on those standards, I believe.
Yeah, so we have like the normal typical report card where it's like the content, like science, math, language arts, social studies, religion. And on top of that, we did the report card, which is specifically for the Spanish language. So for the partner language. So that's what we use to let parents know. Sorry, there's a lot of motion going on here. That's what we use to let parents know what level they're in their language. Depends on their writing, their reading, because it's going to be not all over the place, but they're going to start off at different levels. Like their listening is probably going to be higher than their writing in the beginning. So I know that's something that a lot of our parents were looking into and really liked, because we were actually telling them and letting them know where their student was at based on the language. And it's based on the ACTFL standards.
Are you, thank you, Yvette, for sharing that. Beth, is that something that your team has considered, or is that sort of in the works?
Writing and listening
Yeah,
standards
for
in the language arts.
So under English language arts, we have the writing portion, the reading portion.
Can we turn it to see Sarah?
Oh yeah, sorry.
What?
Sorry.
Hi, friend.
So for our English portion of the report card, the ELA, we have under it like the reading portion, the writing portion, and the listening portion. And then for Spanish, we have the same thing for the Spanish. Writing in Spanish, listening in Spanish, and then reading in Spanish, and speaking.
Writing, and listening.
Yeah, so they do have all those standards. So parents do get a report on how are they doing in ELA, and then how are they doing in Spanish language arts as well.
Excellent. And this is shared on the drive, everyone, so you can see it, you can look at it more carefully, more in detail, what Sarah and her colleagues are describing. And is it based on those levels that Yvette and Manuel were talking about, or is it based on something else?
It's based on our state standards.
On the state standards, okay. Very good, very good. And for the state standards, so Florida's in Suzanne, if you're still listening, I think you're still there. Thank you, all the way from New Mexico at La Cosecha. Yeah, I appreciate how much she's due with a baby soon, friends. She is really a trooper. So with the state standards, are these based on the ACTFL levels, or where are these state standards coming from? Or are these the sorts of things that you were trying to advocate for? And we're going to learn more about that on December 11th webinar.
Okay, so in terms of state standards in Florida, there's no such thing in Spanish. Okay, there's as I believe that one of the questions that came up, like in California, there's the Common Core state standards in Spanish. In New York, I know that they exist like as the Bilingual Common Core initiative, and so on and so forth. In Florida, we do not have that. The best that we do have, it would be the WIDA standards in Spanish, which we have taken a look at. but it's nothing that is mandated or followed throughout the entire state, or, you know, it depends, you know, if you want to use it or not. That's basically the bottom line. There, unfortunately, at this point, because the even the state mandated assessments are, there's no time frame if they're going to be translated into other languages or anything like that. I have not heard of any push to have any state standards in Spanish or any other language other than English. So that's where Florida stands. My hope, and through the work that we are doing across Florida, my hope is that one day that will change, being that the population, the student population in Florida is growing exponentially, and it's diversifying at rates that are far, far faster than I think our education system is ready for. So hopefully we'll get there soon.
So you've raised a lot of key points, Suzanne. So I'm going to touch on a couple of them. So WIDA, not all of our schools are following WIDA. WIDA was something that Risen Christ has used some of the WIDA can-do statements, I believe. But WIDA is a great resource. Even if your state or school district is, or diocese rather, are not using WIDA, WIDA has some good stuff. So I would check it out, WIDA. And the choice to use WIDA over others is a political one, but it's got a lot of influence across the nation. And then the idea of a diversifying student population is a key one, Suzanne. And if you think the population is getting more diverse culturally and linguistically faster than the state is ready for, that's a big statement. That's a very important statement that our schools, all of them, the twin schools, are way ahead of the curve, aren't they?
Absolutely, which is great, but it does come with its challenges, because trying to get the resources in order to really meet the needs of our students and our schools, it's challenging, and we often have to go and seek these resources elsewhere. So we have to look at states like California, Texas, New York. We look at DC, we look at Boston, we look at other places in order to see what other people are doing and then kind of adapting it. So yes, it makes our job a little bit more challenging, because we have to go through a little bit more hurdles than maybe other states that have this readily accessible. But at least for me, it gives me a sense of gratification. I know that the pre-K and the kindergarten, and I know even the first grade team at St. John Vianney, which I was already emailing today at 9 o'clock in the morning, Mountain Time, and setting up some PDs for them and whatnot. I know that even though it's challenging, it's kind of a challenge that we take on and we accept, and we say, all right, let's go and move forward and do something because our kids need it.
That's right.
So I hope that I share the same mindset as my teammates, and I call my teammates. I don't, you know, we're all in this together. So so I'm hopeful that, again, like I said, this is going to change. Like you mentioned, the WIDA is a good resource, but not everybody. It's a consortium. Not everybody participates in that consortium. But it's some of the resources that are out there available for dual language teachers in the state of Florida.
Excellent. Very, very well said. I've got another question here from Gloria, the mentor in Baltimore. I'll read it for everyone, Gloria. Or excuse me, not Gloria, Margarita. Gloria wrote earlier, mentor from Los Angeles, or Margarita. So this is a little bit off topic, but also related. How do you report your state assessment scores for dual language programs when the scores might be a little lower than hoped for? So State assessment scores for dual language programs when the scores might be a little lower than hoped for. Thoughts on this? Would you like to talk about that, Beth?
Yes. Well, the good news is that headache we haven't really had to cross yet. We haven't had to worry about that. Our students start taking assessments in 2nd grade. So we're still under that curve a little bit. So I think what we'll probably have to do is take a close look at the tools that we use for assessments and probably get on board with Suzanne and help our state understand the necessity of coming up with some state standards.
Right. Yes. So I think you're in several different contexts. You're in the state of Florida context, you're in the Diocese of Orlando context, you're in the reality of a multicultural, multilingual community. There's a lot of things that you're trying to balance here without a lot of guidance or structure from Tallahassee. We have a question that's somewhat related that was written in during registration, Beth?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so some of this you've already touched on. This person was asking, and I don't think Kathy Yates, are you joining us right now? I don't think you are. Okay, so this is Kathy Yates, new co-principal from Minneapolis. So she was asking about the platforms you're using to share student data with parents. So it sounds like you're using RenWeb.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have recommendations for setting up your report card template to reflect subjects taught in English or Spanish, as well as displaying grades in both languages, regardless of the language in which the subject matter is taught? So what I think she's asking, and I think you've already kind of touched on this, regardless of what subject or what language the subject was taught in, it is made available in whatever language the parent chooses.
Yes, ma'am.
Talked about before, but I want to make sure that that was addressed since she asked it. So that is available in several languages beyond English and Spanish.
I think there's 27 languages right now.
And is that something that you pay for, that subscription or something through RenWeb?
Yes, it comes with the program that we purchase, the translation.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. Carmen, you had asked earlier, and I want to make sure that your question was addressed, and I think it was, you had written, are the report cards bilingual? Do you send home report cards in both languages? So Carmen, I just wanted to make sure we acknowledged your question. Is there anything you want to add to that, Carmen? I'll take that as being satisfied in all the answers. Other questions for our friends in Orlando? Will you be tweaking it for next grading period, or are you going to stick with it for a full year?
I think we've decided to stay with this for the year, just to look consistent and to provide our parents with some stability in that area, because this is a concern for everyone. Is it changing all the time and so forth? So for consistency, we're going to stay with the program. However, the teachers and Ms. Marshall there's a couple of areas of tweaking that we realize might need to happen. So I foresee this to be something that in everything you do should be evaluated, assessed, and then adjusted as needed. So I see that process happening in April and May for the following year. Where we run into problem and with that is always our relationship with the diocese and the coding people that work on creating our report cards. So that grit, that perseverance has to happen. That communication with the diocese has got to be maintained. So I foresee that it will probably be evolving for the next, how long will we be doing this? Forever. I think evolution with education is a natural process. So yes, I believe we'll be evaluating and making a change.
So what I think I hear you saying is you come up with your report card, you send it to the Diocese Catholic Schools office or the superintendent's office. They approve it and then you can use it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Or they say, no, do X, Y, and Z, and you have to do X, Y, and Z and then send it back again.
Well, the good news is we have Miss Marshall with us, and they seem to enjoy Miss Marshall down there. They like her. And so fortunately for us, it really just takes a little bit of time connecting with the tech department. Once the supervisor and our superintendent has approved it, then it seems to be a little bit of a tech issue. So that's when I take over and just kind of keep working with the diocese and their relationship with our RenWeb people to make sure that they can produce a card that our teachers can use within the grading program.
So distributive leadership, a little bit of charm, a little connecting and networking.
Miss Marshall in a nutshell, yes, ma'am.
I've known Miss Marshall for a few years. I know how she works that charm. She's very good. Of course, then she calls me out on it occasionally when I say, hey, would you like to run a webinar? So thank you, Carmen. I think you got your answer. Great, very good. Is there anything you would like folks to know if they are, their teams of teachers and principals and mentors are thinking about taking this on? And let's assume they have a similar sort of structure of, turned it into the superintendent's office and so forth. What advice would you offer? Like, what is something that you say, please don't do this because it was such a headache, or please do that, it would have been easier if we had done that?
Teachers, do you have, they look like they're thinking about it, but I have one thing that I would like to add. As an administrator, I would recommend that you listen to the teachers about the standards in which they need to cover. Because they tell me we have to do these things, and if you can encourage your teachers to be adamant and stay with it, I can't tell you how many times they would come in shaking their head going, no, we need these standards and these are the ones that we need to have. And then instead of acting as if I knew all the standards, it's very important to listen to what they have. They're in the classroom, their boots on the ground. They know what is possible and what isn't. And that's probably, from my perspective as an administrator, the most important thing. Teachers, do you have anything?
Did you look at a lot of, that's okay. Did you look at a lot of examples?
Yes.
And you know, Mary, I sent you those links. Suzanne did a wonderful job researching a lot of links of different types of report cards, which we studied very carefully. So she's willing to share those. I believe I shared those with you. So
you did, and I'm going to put them on our Google Drive so folks can access them directly. But that I'll make sure they're up there because it was a wide variety. There's Miss Marshall. There was a lot of, there's about 10 or 15.
Right.
So this, to me, what I'm hearing here is a great balance of trust and rapport between administration and faculty and mentor, that everyone's actively participating. This isn't one person's project. This is everyone working together. But when did the parent perspective come in? Or did it? Maybe it didn't need to. Maybe it wasn't the time to. Maybe that's for next time.
Well, you know, I think I had alluded to the fact that when we return from Thanksgiving, we're going to work towards getting a little feedback from the parents. At this point, I think it's new and they're looking and everything's, you know, it's the first semester. It's kind of romantic. You know, everything looks great. They love their teachers.
It's the honeymoon period.
Yes. And so that's wonderful. But I feel like at that point, when we open up our conferences and the teachers have conferences, they'll be able to gain and acquire some feedback. I toyed with the idea of giving a survey, just like a Survey Monkey, just to find out 5 quick questions, what they thought. So with the team, we'll talk about that and see if we can push forward and learn for the next trimester's report card.
Excellent. But it does sound like a great team effort, and hats off to you all for doing that so well. So Carmen's asking to see an example, and yes, Carmen, it is on the Google Drive. So drop me an email and I'll make sure you have a link to it directly. We have a lot of good examples from Mrs. Ragone, from Ms. Ladas in Arizona. We've got some great examples. We have a question here from Ms. Romero. If I have understood correctly, some of you are having standards in Spanish. Where have you gotten these standards from? So the standards are coming sometimes from the state, depending on what state you are in. Sometimes they're coming from a national organization. WIDA is now a national organization that originated in Wisconsin. Some states like Florida don't have explicit standards in Spanish, but they are using some guidelines. Is it fair to say call them guidelines? In Arizona, Yvette, am I right in thinking that you have very specific things that you have to do by state law, including that special test for those identified as ELL?
Yeah, we have the Azella test for English language learners, and yeah, by law they need to take the test, and they need to be proficient in the test in all levels. So if they get stuck in one level, they're gonna have to retake the test all over again. And we actually had a couple of them. Usually we weren't, I mean, students weren't passing the test and we couldn't figure out why. Last year, we actually had a lot of students test out. So this year when we got the results, a lot of them tested out. So I'm like, yay, like we're doing something good. I don't
But now what is it? So you can keep doing it.
So whatever we did, we need to continue doing. And we noticed it too with, because we take the Iowa test, that's our standardized test. And for a while, it seemed like we were not doing well, like students were not doing well. So a lot of parents started blaming the dual language, but last year was actually also one of the first years where we saw 5th grade and above do really good in the test. So it's like, yeah, in 2nd grade, 3rd grade, even 4th grade, they're going to show very low levels. But once they get into that 5th grade, 6th grade, and upper grades, it's like that's when you see their ability to.
And that's what the research shows as well, Yvette. That parallels the research very, very closely in terms of neurological cognitive development with 2 languages. It just all starts to click, typically.
Yeah, well, I used to teach 3rd grade and 4th grade Spanish, and I know I would get frustrated because I'm like, am I not teaching right? Like, am I like not a good teacher? Because I feel like a lot of students were failing, but now I have those students in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and a lot of them are off already in their freshman year, and they're all like, our Spanish is like perfect compared to other students. And I'm like, that's awesome. Like, yay. They're all like, oh, we're in honors Spanish. We're in honors this. We're taking Spanish, like all these random Spanish classes because they're not at the low level anymore. They're very high levels. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well done. But I think what you're describing is a good example of you've got these requirements by the state in Arizona. They're very, very specific. And then you have the data that shows. Yeah, and it takes time. That takes time. So thank you for sharing that. We've got a couple of comments. And so, Ms. Romero, on the chat, you'll see that there are some examples here from Manuel and Margarita in Baltimore of where you can find some more standards. There are many different ways to organize your school based on these various standards. In the interest of time, I want to, first of all, let me go back a second. Thank you, Orlando. Thank you, Ms. Lebrecht, for your leadership and your willingness or
Miss Marshall's laugh.
Yes, it wasn't really willingness. Miss Marshall's, oh, Beth will do that. So thank you, Beth, for being such a good sport. And everyone who participated from Orlando, it was really great to learn from you. Thank you. So some housekeeping. If you have not registered, and I've been trying to keep track, I want to give everyone the hours that they've earned. So do email me if you attended today and I haven't called your name so I can give you credit for being here in person to get your professional development hours. Your feedback is so welcome. So in the chat, if you go up to the chat, you will see that we put the link up there. If we need it again, I will post it again, but we would really love for your thoughts and your input and what we can keep doing to make this a very useful exercise, attending the webinars and getting feedback. Our next webinar is going to be on the 27th with Dr. Erica Prager of St. Louis. Similar to what you saw today, thinking long-term over several years, Erica is a very strategic thinker, and the work she's doing with her teachers and her mentor, Leticia, is very, very useful, and I think everyone could learn from them. So we hope that you will be able to join us. So thank you for your participation and your attendance and your questions, and our gratitude to Orlando. You're great. Thank you so much for all your hard work. So
thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great Thanksgiving and safe travels, everyone. And we will talk.
Thank you. You too. Say hi to Miss Marshall.
Thanks, everybody.